And welcome back, students. As we continue our discussion of linked list, we kind of alluded to this lesson last time, but now we're going to actually dive our teeth into it, and that is of node inner classes. So this is going to be very similar in some regards to how we've worked previous inner classes. So getting started with today's lesson, you can make a linked list or any other similar data structure self-contained by making the node class an inner class. So if we want to look back at our class linked list 1, we can make that much more self-contained by making that node 1 a inner class as follows. Public class linked list 1, private class node 1, then the rest of the definition node 1 goes inside, and then private node 1 head and the constructor and methods for linked list 1s are then inserted there. So if we actually dive our teeth a little bit into these inner classes, you'll note that we made the class node 1 a private inner class. So it's not a public class now. It's not free accessible. It's now private. All right. So this helps clamp down on some of those potential security issues that we talked about last time. So it does us a real favor there. If an inner class is not intended to be used elsewhere, remember it should be made private. So because the node class doesn't really necessarily need to be used anywhere else, linked list class, yes, that's why it's public. But the node class, no, we're not really having a need for node 1 to be used like that. So it being private makes perfect sense. Now, making node 1 a private inner class hides all the objects of the inner class and avoids a privacy leak, which is what I kind of have already alluded to and what we talked about in our previous lesson. Now, if you're going to make the class node 1 a private inner class in the definition of linked list 1, then you can safely simplify the definition of node 1 by eliminating the accessor and mutator methods, or the set and get methods, and just allow direct access to the instance variables such as item, count, link, etc. from the methods of the outer class. Because remember, you're not needing to change it. They're private. It's now inside of that other class as an inner class, so it's not its own class. So it doesn't necessarily need those set and get methods. Now, we've created another class called linked list 2, which is pretty much written very similar to how we had linked list 1. The rewritten version, of course, is like linked list 1 in that it has the same methods that perform basically the exact same action. So it's pretty much identical to linked list 1, except for, of course, one minor detail, in that being that it has the node inner class. So in order to kind of keep our discussion simple for our terms, linked list 2 only has one data field instead of 2. We could have easily retained the 2 data fields that we use, but we wanted a simple example without any distracting details. So let's pop over to Eclipse real quick, and you can see here is linked list 2. All right, and just for comparison, let's pull up linked list 1. And you can see here we had in linked list 2, we have our private class node. We have a private string item, private node link, a public node, which of course you can see here is our item and link are set to null. Our public node right here. And of course this right here is the inner class. All right, so all this right here is the inner class, and of course then here's my private node head, and here's linked list 2. All right, a little different than how we had set up this one before. Before it was private node head. All right, you don't notice there is no node 1 inner class in here, so that's one of the big differences between linked list 2 and linked list 1 is the inclusion of the private class node. So rather than me having to call up node 1, it is now this right here is now included in here. And you notice this inner class, as I mentioned in the notes, does not contain any of these set or get methods. All the access or mutator methods, I don't need them anymore because it's now an inner class and it's privately restricted to the linked list 2 class. All right. Everything else, though, if you look at, is pretty much identical to what we have done before. So with that being said, I will see you next time.